Now for our final segment on Juneteenth and its unique significance here in New Mexico. Welcome back to Joe and Rita Padrell, Professor Marcia K. Hardiman, and cultural change leader at the City of Albuquerque, Tim Green IV. Now, as someone who's had a driving role, Mr. Padrell, in Juneteenth events for decades, how would you characterize the importance of involving people outside the Black community in celebrating Juneteenth?
You know, the evolution of Juneteenth is beyond now. The essence of it is beyond the African American experience now. It's actually beyond the American experience. It is now a human experience. We've got to take the essence of Juneteenth and teach it to the coming generations. And that's one of the things I disliked about it becoming a national holiday is what was therapeutic about Juneteenth. That's not moving forward, because that's therapeutic not only for African Americans, it's therapeutic for Americans as well. And I think if we can hold on to that in the celebration of it, it'll be what we need, and it is the responsibility of the next generation. Sankofa is the term we use very often, but we've got to transfer the essence of Juneteenth, which is we need to learn and appreciate the similarities that we have. New Mexico is a very diverse state. Teaching it here is crucial. New Mexico makes Juneteenth, I think the Juneteenth in New Mexico is really different than all the Juneteenths in other countries because of the layout of people here. But the essence is relative to us all. And if we keep that, and we have to work to keep it, it's not an accident that you keep a sense of interrelatedness. We got to do that on purpose. We got to teach interrelatedness.
That's good.
Tim, what message would you like to give people outside the Black community about this Juneteenth celebration in 2024 in particular, and the importance of their involvement?
Well, even though Juneteenth is talking about Black history in particular, I think we're talking about American history in general, right?
Good.
And this idea of freedom and liberty that everyone has been speaking about, looking towards a new future, this is something that all cultures and ethnicities have shared throughout their plight or their history. You can study history and understand that a lot of us have been seeking freedom and liberty and joy for many, many years. And this is an opportunity for people to come and for us to really live in our multiculturalism as a state and the diversity. But at the same time, understanding the significance that Black people and the contributions have made to the Southwest, right? Prior to statehood, and then moving forward to today, right? With all of our wonderful counselors that are being elected, our judges, and all of the significant impacts, but also what we're gonna do in the future as a community. So for me, I just invite everybody to come out, celebrate with one another, and just lean into culture.
Understood. Now, with that in mind, and now that Juneteenth has been recognized as a federal holiday, and it's becoming more widespread, the understanding of it, is there any way, Ms. Padrell, any fear, I should say, of whitewashing or over-commercialization like we brought up in the last segment?
Well, I think the important thing about Juneteenth is the Emancipation Proclamation. And the important thing about the Emancipation Proclamation to New Mexico is how it affected New Mexico. So New Mexico and the territory of New Mexico may not even become a state, may not even have had the borders that it had, were it not for the Emancipation Proclamation. Because the Emancipation Proclamation allowed the War Department to have the United States colored troops, 200,000 strong. And that was the preamble for the development of the 9th and 10th Cavalry and the 24th and 25th Infantry, which will come to New Mexico and help New Mexico as a territory squelch rebellions, protect its borders, build forts. And so that is part of the history of the Emancipation Proclamation, how it affected this state, New Mexico, and how African Americans, because of the Emancipation Proclamation, come to the West and are part of the development of the West. So that history is really important for us to know.
Okay, I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
Professor, how do we, as a larger multicultural community, walk that line that Tim spoke of a bit, of participating and supporting this holiday without trying to take it over? Is that possible in our current society? And
Who's the we?
everybody outside the Black community to participate,
Okay.
to recognize your ownership of the holiday.
Okay. Well, I think the emphasis on pluralism is critical. Black people would not have survived without white people and Native Americans. Native Americans would not have survived without Black people and white people and some Hispanics. Hispanics would not have survived. And as Rita said, this state is so unique from most other places in the United States because of the plethora of subcultures. But we tend to get along pretty well here. There are issues that keep coming up, but we want everybody to know who we are. We want them to respect our background, our culture, and we want to respect theirs. And I think, so here's a quote. Everybody knows Maya Angelou would say, when people show you who they are, you should, here's my more favorite one. We are much more alike, my friend, than we are unalike. We are much more alike, my friend, than we are unalike, in one of her poems. But we don't know how alike we are if we don't know our history. If we don't know that those soldiers came here to protect this land, if we don't know that some of those soldiers stayed here to establish Black communities, Vado, Blackdom, if we don't, Tim talked about in the last segment, the young people having the chance to chalk out what Juneteenth is going to mean to them. I am so curious to see what they say, because that will teach us what we still need to be teaching them. What's missing? What are they not understanding? What have we failed to teach? So much of our history is getting lost, not just whitewashed, but I mean just totally forgotten, because we don't have enough venues, I'm going to say, to make sure that everybody knows that Black history is American history. And I, pardon me, I always say Black because Black people are, it means all inclusive. We are a nation that has incorporated Africans who don't relate to being African American, because that means of African descent born in America. But we have Frank Miranda, who used to be over the Human Rights Department, would say, you know, what about the Black Portuguese in Boston, where he came from, or Cabo Verdeans? Black people encompass the world. And I won't say that all of us have a little Blackness in us, but, you know, if we're talking about unifying, the more we know, the more we'll learn to respect one another, to care for one another. And boy, at this time in our community, in our nation's history, if we haven't learned yet that we need to come together, we will all rise or fall together. And I want to see us not just survive, but thrive. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I'd like
Who has a thought, I think? You want to?
by all means.
You know, if Juneteenth, as it evolves, even as a national holiday, if it serves the purpose of educating us, making us realize what Dr. King said, we find ourselves in an inescapable network of mutuality. Mm-hmm. What happens to you happens to me. If Juneteenth facilitates getting that message over, and it can because of the story of Juneteenth, the Emancipation Proclamation, the Civil War, you know, the struggle with transitioning from being owned to owning yourself. God bless the child. If Juneteenth serves that purpose, and I think it will. I think it will because it needs to. I think people need what Juneteenth essentially says. I think we're going to be all right. But it ain't an accident. We got to do what Tim's doing. You got to do it on purpose. It ain't no accident.
Understood. On that note, Ms. Padrell, what do you think we all need to do, the Black community, people outside the Black community, to preserve the culture, the history, and the legacy of this holiday?
Well, I think one of the things we need to do is to educate ourselves to history. During enslavement, we weren't allowed to learn how to read. But the thing is, we now know how to read, but we're still illiterate. We still don't know our history. We still don't know, as Marcia said, how we're connected, how we're interconnected. So again, and what Joe said, understanding history, understanding the ambiguity of history, understanding how even the Emancipation Proclamation left people behind. It actually left enslaved people behind because it allowed the border states to have slaves. So even after the Texans, African Americans who were covered by the Emancipation Proclamation were freed, you still had enslavement in Kentucky and Delaware, which does not end until we have the 13th Amendment. And that's history. That's knowing how things evolved. That's knowing our origin as a people, really understanding history, all of it.
How all the pieces relate.
You
have to put it's a whole puzzle.
Yeah.
That explains the history of America, and not that America's without its faults. We've certainly seen the issues that are cyclic, but the more we understand how it all fits together, the less caught off guard, I want to say, we will be.
And I just want to add to what Rita's saying, that the issue today is something that's been going on. She talked about anti-literacy laws, right? We're still seeing those being passed across the country when it comes to Black education. But I do want to uplift what's going on in New Mexico when it comes to the Black Education Act. I'm on the curriculum committee. And so there is an act in place right now to make sure that we teach, we maintain, and we hold Black culture and heritage inside of our schools, and make sure that it's culturally relevant pedagogy, to make sure that the content is appropriate, the curriculum. So I just want to uplift, there are acts in New Mexico which I think make us unique when it comes to preserving that Black history.
That's very good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all.
Are we out of time?
We are out of time, and I really thank you all for being here for this conversation. Thanks to Reverend Dr. Charles Becknell Sr. and Mr. Ron Wallace also. Thanks to Tim in particular and Counselor Nicole Rogers, who you also saw during this broadcast, for their work organizing and conceptualizing these panel discussions. As we mentioned, Albuquerque's Juneteenth celebration is Saturday from 11 to 11 on Civic Plaza.